Here we go. We are here to talk about book launch strategies today, which, if you are trying to write and publish a book, your book launch strategy is basically your game plan, your everything that you're going to do related to your book. And as I've been working with different authors through over the past few years, I have found that a lot of people have the same struggles and issues and misconceptions, especially those in the self published and indie published realm. So, who am I and why am I the one giving this presentation? First of all, I started off as an author, self published my first book almost 5 years ago, and have been doing it ever since then, not only for myself, but for others as well. Along the way, people would ask me how I was doing, what I was doing, how I did it, all those types of things. And I decided that instead of just constantly sharing that information, that I would build a business out of it because it's something that I truly enjoy doing. And I wanted to be able to share that information in a valuable way, but obviously still have to be able to be compensated for the time and effort put into that. So we created a couple of different things. I created a company called Cat Biggie Press where we actually publish. It's an imprint. We are a hybrid publisher. And then and our genre focuses largely on female nonfiction, but we basically anything that has to do with uh, I'm sorry, I need to turn off Facebook really quickly. I thought I had done that before this, but I definitely don't want things popping up and bothering us. So excuse me just 1 second while I click that off. Yes, I want to leave that site. Back to the presentation. Sorry about that. That's going to be very disturbing. Okay. Started publishing books through our imprint. And again, it's basically books on self-help, healing, transformation, love, light, all those good things through Cat Biggie Press. And then we also have the Write, Publish, Sell business, which is a business focused on providing author support services and helping other people get their books published themselves with all of the ins and outs and intricacies that come along the way. We have a free group at writepublishsell.co/Facebook, and we share lots of information. In fact, we're getting ready to kick off a free 5-day boot camp or challenge on writing, publishing, and marketing your book. And I hope that you will join us if that is of interest to you. So, why do most authors fail? That's kind of a harsh way to start the webinar, isn't it? We're going to hope that you're not going to fail. But a lot of times authors will publish a book and then they are severely disappointed that no one bought it. If this has been your experience, I'd love to hear in the comments from you on what happened. What on earth is going on here? I'm so sorry. I don't really understand why that would pop up in the middle of a screen share, but okay. So, why do authors fail? I told you this has been the strangest of days. First, we have alarms going off all over the place. Now my screen is just being crazy. I think I've shut Facebook off like 3 times. I must have a million tabs open or something. But anyway, so when you launch your book and you have these glorious expectations of a wonderful, like big time launch, this is going to be the real deal. Here we go. And you launch and no one buys the book. It's extremely frustrating. You've put your time, your effort, your everything into doing this book, and then it just didn't have the results that you wanted. A lot of times it's because they don't start early enough. I can't tell you the number of people that have come to me upon completion of their book. It's already been written, it's either already been through editing or it's on its way to editing, and they haven't started anything else. They haven't started building their platform. They haven't started marketing their book. They haven't even started thinking about any of those things. And those are hugely time consuming efforts that need to be started sometimes in as far as more than a year in advance, but certainly 3 to 6 months prior to publication. Another reason that authors have a difficult time selling their book is that they don't know their target audience or don't understand them. They know that they've written a book that's a love story that takes place in the Midwest in the 1930s, but they don't know who's going to buy that kind of book or where to find them. They don't have a good grasp on the keywords and categories that they need to be using, the metadata that they need to have so that people can find their book. when you publish on Amazon, you're competing against like 5 million other books. So you have to keep that in mind, and you have to know that your metadata has to be fantastic. It has to be, your keywords and categories have to be right so that when people are looking for a book like yours, they can actually find it. They believe that publishing on Amazon is good enough, or through CreateSpace, which gets you to Amazon. Let me tell you, there are a lot of different ways to publish your books and a lot of ways to get in front of different audiences. And Amazon is not good enough for someone who wants to be a bestseller, depending on your goals, your tactics, and all kinds of things. For everything I say, I'm sure someone can give me an argument of how someone actually did these things and was a bestseller, and there are obviously exceptions. We're speaking to the big picture here, to the overall, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but to generalizations here. They don't have a good description or cover. The expression about your book being judged by its cover, it came from a very valid reason. It's for, especially these days with it being on Amazon, where you get such a limited time trying to attract someone in if they're scrolling through a genre or scrolling through other books that people have read that pop up on the bottom, where it gives you suggestions and things. You have such a short amount of time to grab their attention. And if your cover doesn't do it, you've completely lost the opportunity for them to even come and see if your book is something that they want. And then the next thing is the description. If you're writing a book about raising horses and your description only talks about life on the farm, anybody who might have bought your book because they thought it was about raising horses but saw nothing in the description about that, you've missed them. You have to have a good description that compels people, that gives them a call to action, that makes them actually want to on your book. If it's the description, take it up to the till at the front of the store and actually purchase that book. And then they skip out on professional services to save money, thinking that it'll be okay and that, it doesn't really matter that they got a cover designed by Fiverr, or they didn't have a professional editor because they're a super, super good editor and they know how to do it on their own. Sometimes people really are good enough to edit their own, but even Stephen King has an editor. So, you probably need to have at least somebody proofread your content just to make sure there's not glaring mistakes and errors. At least have somebody be a frontline reader for you. So before you hit publish, someone has noticed, oh goodness, you misspelled. You meant to write the word one, W-O-N, and you actually wrote O-N-E. Those are the kinds of things you want to make sure that you finish and get professionally done. Your cover, your layout, all those types of things. All right. So the title of this thing is the 5 things that are missing from your book launch. And they all kind of hinge off of all of those things that I just talked about that relate to why people fail. And the first one is the audience. Now, hang on just a second. Let me check and make sure there's no comments popping up over here. Okay. Feel free to chime in if you have a question at any time, and I will either answer it when I see it, or at the end I will come back and look for questions as well. Okay, so we talked about the audience, and this can be twofold. The first is that they just don't even have one. If you're missing a group to sell your book to, you're in trouble, because mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and your brothers and sisters and best friend are only going to buy so many copies of your book, if they ever even buy it. I'm not going to tell you how many times people say, not even my family wants to buy my book. So you have to make sure that you've put the time into building the audience, as well as knowing where your audience is and who your actual audience is. So as we talk about building your platform, if you're planning on going through a traditional publisher and you're looking for an agent to represent you, I can guarantee you that one of the first questions they are going to ask you is, how big is your platform? So even with traditional houses, even going with a traditional publisher, how many people you already have in your network that can potentially buy your book is important from the time you go to publish to anybody. So it's important that you have people to sell your book to. Size does matter. For agents that go to traditional publishers, a lot of times they will look for a minimum of 50,000 fans, be that through a Facebook page, a Twitter account, blog subscribers, something. They have to know that you have people who are going to buy your book, or a traditional publisher is not going to invest in you because you are a risk. They need to make sure that you're going to be able to sell a book. And for you, if you put all this time, effort, and money into creating a wonderful book to sell, you want to make sure that you have that audience to sell to as well. So not only to grow them, you have to know, where are they? Do you know how to reach them, where they hang out, where they're asking questions? Are they on Twitter? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Do you have any idea even where to start trying to find your audience? It's important to know, and it takes a little bit of legwork and time to actually identify the people who might be willing to buy your book. The quality. I talked about this with respect to knowing what professional services to hire. People can tell when they buy your book if you did it yourself. There are times for DIY and there are times to let someone help you. You want a quality representation out there of your work. You don't want your reviews to be lower marked with it having nothing to do with the actual content of the book. It could be the best written book in the world, but if there are glaring errors, if the cover is terrible, if it's difficult to read because you didn't have it laid out properly, so everything's all bunched together, or it's just hard on the eyes, you don't want your reviews to reflect that. And first of all, you don't want people seeing that anyway. So for your first publication, and maybe even for the future, if you don't want to have to learn how to do it, hire it. Make sure you have, and I will preach this over and over, find a good cover designer. That we work with one with Cat Biggie Press who is so reasonably priced, it's crazy. There are reasonably priced graphic designers out there who know what they're doing. They know how to lay out the elements of the book that draw your eye to it, how to match fonts, how to make sure that the colors aren't all bleeding into each other, how to make sure that your name is on there in the proper positioning and proper way, all those things that the average person is never going to have any idea on how to do. Graphics. When you're promoting your book on all those social media elements that we talked about, or through your blog, or sending images for, whatever you may be, say you're a guest on a podcast and they want some different images to represent you, wherever it is, you want to make sure that those are also good quality, attractive graphics that you're using in all of your marketing. And the same goes with good copies for sale pages and promo materials. You're a writer. Obviously, you just wrote a book, but sales copy is different. And copywriting in general for like blog pages and things like that, it's different than writing a novel. I'm a writer. I do all of these things. I still hire a sales copywriter to do my sales pages because they know how to attract people and how to entice people and how to get people to fill in their email address if that's the goal, or to press the buy now button if that's the goal. Your interior layout can really, really, really make or break you. Have you ever bought a book and the ebook came free with it, and you clicked on the ebook and it just looked horrendous? Like things were all over the place. Nothing was justified properly. The writing was all bunched up. They didn't get it professionally converted, and they didn't check the final to make sure that it actually looked good on an e-reader. So it's all those kinds of things that will set you apart from somebody else who's done professional services. Your timeline. I mentioned this at the very beginning, that some people just start way too late in the game. The beautiful thing about self-publishing is that you are in absolute control over the timeline and when you publish. Now, some of you are constrained by dates. When I published my first book, Sunshine After the Storm, A Survival Guide for the Grieving Mother, it was very important for us to publish within October because it's a guide for moms who have lost babies. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and I had my heart set on October 15th as our launch date because that is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. So I did have a hard date that everything had to be done. But unless you have a particular, or say you're a speaker going on a conference circuit, or there's a big event that you have to have your book for. Sometimes there are, even in the indie publishing world and self-publishing world, hard deadlines that you have to meet. But other than that, if you're in charge and can determine when it's going to be, don't push yourself to do something before your product is ready and before if you've had all of your ducks in a row to make sure everything is good to go with your audience and all of those things. But also, you need to recognize that it's probably going to take a lot longer than you thought to do all of those things. It can, there's a reason. There are a lot of reasons, but there are several really good reasons why the traditional model moves so slowly. And that's because there are so many elements that you want to have right before you publish a book. It's really a huge investment on your part as a writer, and on the publisher's part, and on everyone's part, to launch a book successfully. So make sure that you have worked through a timeline that you know is going to give you enough time to get it done right. You don't want to launch immediately upon finishing your manuscript. You need to allow for the time for beta readers, if you're using them, for advanced readers and advanced reviewers to get the book, to have the time to read it so that they can promote it with you and for you at the beginning, and get those reviews out there so that other people get attracted to your book. You've got to make time for the editor. Most editors going to go through at least 2 rounds of edits with you. So 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer, depending on the quality the book was by the time it got to the editor and how long it is. You have to be able to have time for the interior layout, which some people think, oh, that takes no time at all to just get the book looking like it needs to be done. It's just a matter of doing the right justification and putting headers in there. Well, I can tell you on average, I spend 10 hours per book. 10 hours may not seem like a very long time, but when it's 10 hours of working on one book, you don't do that all in one day, first of all. And second of all, there are often things that need to be changed or fixed, or the author, or you don't like the way the headings look when you find it in print, or so many things. And 10 is that's a good estimate. There have been books that have taken upwards of 50 hours to do the layout for. It's not just a matter of it takes a long time. Let's just put it that way. All those other things, the marketing, the loading to different accounts and uploading and all those things, they take time, and you have to make sure that you have built all of those into your launch strategy. Another thing, a lot of book launch strategies, book marketing strategies are missing is a good understanding of the metadata. Some people don't even know what that word means. These are all of the things that will make or break your book, basically. So it's important to know what it means. It means how people, how computers, how algorithms, how everything makes your book show up where it shows up, basically. The keywords, the search terms, the description, the positioning of your book. All of those different types of things. It's the analytics behind what is happening with your book and what you want to happen with your book once it's published. So metadata is hugely important, and knowing all of those things and how to make sure that it is going to be where the right people will find it. If I'm searching on Amazon for a particular book, have I made sure that everything is in place so that when someone goes and searches a book about compassion, and I've written a book about compassion, my book shows up where it's meant to show up and for the right people. So the metadata is huge, and a lot of people do not pay enough attention to that. And the final thing of the book launch strategy that is missing is a solid marketing plan. I should have added one more thing, and that is that people are missing the writer-entrepreneur mindset. Because once you decide that you're going to publish a book, unless you hand it over to someone else to do all of these things for you, you have just become a writer-entrepreneur. You are now in the business of selling a product, and that product obviously is your book. So you have to act like an entrepreneur would act like someone selling a product would act. You need a marketing plan that lays out your timelines, when you're going to have things to different places, what your budget is going to be, who you're going to reach out to for advanced reviews, where you're going to send it, what podcasts you're going to try to get on to promote your book, where you're going to guest post, all of the things that are going to go into a marketing plan. I mean, look how much money even a company like Coca-Cola or McDonald's spends on their marketing plan. a lot of money. And I would imagine that no one listening to this live or to the replay is saying, who's McDonald's? I mean, we know them. McDonald's could probably stop advertising today and still make billions of dollars, but they continue to put the money into the marketing because they know how important that is. And you, as a book, as an author, should also be putting money into your marketing and developing a solid marketing plan. And if you don't have any background in marketing, maybe this is an area that you add into that budget on your professional services and who you're going to hire and how you're going to do it. Okay, I went through all of that pretty quickly. But I wanted to just allow for some time if anybody has any questions. I also want to let you know that on our Facebook group, we have a challenge that we'll be launching that's going to go into these 5 things over 5 days. You can find the group at writepublishsell.co-facebook to find more information about these. But I want to make sure that when you get ready to launch your book, you feel prepared to do it well, because it is really sad to see someone put the time investment and the monetary investment into launching a book and then not having any success with it, or not having the right mentality built into how to approach a book launch. People ask all the time, constantly. I've got a client that's getting ready to launch their book. Do you have any strategies for me? And the first thing I can say is, take at least 3 months to figure it out. Develop a strategy, develop a launch plan, do your marketing, do all of these things. You don't want to just, as I said, when I first started it, you do not want to just finish your book and be like, okay, I'm done. I've written it. I can self-publish. Woohoo! Let's do this. I'm going to self-publish tomorrow because I can. That's not where you want to wind up, because you will find yourself in a whole lot of no sales is where you'll find yourself.